She believed Christmas was meant for mercy, warmth, and forgiveness, not for destruction and public shame. She believed love would protect her heart, not expose it for entertainment tonight. One signature would erase her marriage, and one truth would shatter the illusion of power. Her name was Alina, a woman shaped by poverty, patience, and silence. Raised in narrow rooms where dreams were whispered, not spoken. She learned early that dignity meant endurance and survival meant obedience. She grew up believing she was ordinary, forgettable, invisible. A background character in a world that celebrated loud privilege. She never knew her blood carried legacy. She never knew her real father ruled empires. She never knew her tears would one day expose the cruelty of society. Before this story unfolds, ask yourself one question: is society heartless by nature, or do powerful people simply choose cruelty? When they know no one will stop them, the Christmas party was everything she was not: grand, excessive. Shining with wealth, chandeliers reflected golden light onto marble floors. A towering tree stood decorated with red ribbons, crystal ornaments, and expensive gifts. Laughter echoed, glasses clinked, and music filled the air while Alina stood near the stage holding divorce papers that felt heavier than her own existence. Her hands trembled, her chest tightened, and her eyes burned, but she forced herself to stand straight. Because she had learned that crying in front of the powerful only entertained them. Her husband stood beside her, confident, polished, wearing a suit worth more than everything she owned, smiling as if tonight was a victory, not a betrayal. He raised his glass and announced loudly that this Christmas he wanted to gift himself freedom. Some guests laughed, assuming it was drama, a joke, until they noticed the documents in Alina hands. The room slowly quieted curiosity, replacing laughter. Phones subtly lifted to record whispers. Spread like poison, she felt the walls closing in, memories flooding her mind, nights spent scrubbing office floors until her hands cracked, mornings serving coffee while pretending not to hear insults. The day he promised her safety, dignity, love. He said he admired her simplicity, her strength, her humility, but simplicity soon became the weapon used to humiliate her. His family never accepted her. They mocked her clothes, her accent, her manners, reminding her she was lucky to marry into wealth, lucky to sit at their table, lucky to exist near them. She was excluded from conversations, silenced in gatherings, corrected in public, and blamed in private, yet she stayed. Believing patience would earn respect. Tonight proved patience only trained people how far they could hurt you. The husband leaned close, whispering, "Sign it. Do not embarrass us further." His mother watched from the front row, satisfied, lips curved with victory. His sister recorded discreetly, already planning how to upload this moment, the final erasing of a woman who dared marry above her worth. Alina fingers shook as she picked up the pen. Every breath felt painful. The room waited, hungry. She signed slowly, each letter heavy. A tear fell onto the paper, smudging ink and dignity together. Some guests smiled, some whispered, some enjoyed the performance. Applause followed, thin, forced, cruel. The husband took the papers, triumphant, raised his glass again, wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, as if he had just opened a gift, not destroyed a soul. Alina stepped back, erased, dismissed, invisible again. She turned to leave, wanting nothing more than to disappear into the cold night. Believing this was the end, believing this was all life had for her. But destiny does not always arrive gently. Sometimes it arrives loudly. A deep, commanding voice cut through the hall, stopped the music, stopped laughter, died conversations, froze. Every face turned toward the entrance, where an elderly man stood, tall, calm, and unshaken. His presence alone bent the room into silence. Some guests recognized him instantly, fear replacing arrogance, because this was not just a man. This was power embodied, the billionaire whose name controlled Market City's futures. He walked forward slowly, ignoring everyone else, his gaze fixed only on Alina, as if the world narrowed to her broken figure. He stopped in front of her and asked softly, "Are you hurt?" And in that moment, something inside her cracked, because no one had asked her that in years. Not with sincerity, not with concern, Her lips trembled, but no words came out behind her. The husband laughed nervously, attempting authority, saying it was a private family matter. The billionaire turned toward him, eyes sharp, voice steady, and replied, "You humiliated her publicly, and call it private." Then he placed a protective hand on Alina's shoulder and addressed the room with a voice heavy with truth. "This woman you laughed at is my daughter." The words struck like lightning gasps, echoed, glasses fell, faces drained of color. The mother-in-law stood abruptly, clutching her chest. The sister froze, phone slipping from her hand. The husband staggered back, laughing in disbelief, until the billionaire continued, revealing how his daughter was lost years ago, stolen by poverty and fate, how he searched endlessly across cities, orphanages, hospitals, shadows. How tonight he finally found her standing in tears while strangers celebrated her destruction. Alina, world-spun daughter, the word rewrote her life. Every unanswered question, every wound, every lonely night, tears flowed freely now, not from shame, but from truth, as the man whispered, "I am here, and everything is about to change." The room remained frozen, as if time itself had stopped. Breaths were held, hearts pounded, and every powerful person present felt something unfamiliar: fear. The billionaire stood beside Alina, his hand steady on her shoulder, grounding her as murmurs erupted like distant thunder. Some guests tried to smile, others looked away, unable to face their own reflection in what they had just witnessed. The husband still laughed weakly, trying to recover his dignity, insisting this was some misunderstanding, some dramatic joke, but the billionaire gaze never left him, and that silence was more terrifying than anger. He spoke slowly, each word precise, explaining how years ago his infant daughter was separated from him through betrayal and circumstance, how money could not protect him from fate, how he searched relentlessly, funding shelters, hospitals, schools, hoping to find even a trace of her existence. While Alina listened in disbelief, memories resurfacing, fragmented flashes of a woman singing softly, a warm embrace taken too soon. The billionaire described how he recognized her, not through documents, not through blood tests, but through the eyes that mirrored his own, the same quiet strength, the same refusal to bow despite pain. He turned to the guests and asked, "Who among you decided she was less because she had less, who believed wealth was proof of worth and poverty a crime?" No one answered. Some looked at the floor, others clutched their glasses, trembling. The mother-in-law finally rushed forward, tears streaming, apologizing, claiming ignorance, claiming love. But the billionaire raised a hand, silencing her, and said, "Love does not humiliate. Love does not mock. Love does not destroy." On holidays meant for mercy, he then addressed the husband, directly stating that every contract, partnership, and privilege tied to his empire being revoked, effective immediately. Phones vibrated, confirmations arrive, assistance whispered, panic spread visibly as power evaporated in real time. The husband, face drained of color, realizing the price of cruelty. Too late, he fell to his knees, begging, claiming regret. But the billionaire replied, "Regret after consequence is not repentance. It is fear." He turned back to Alina, lifting her chin gently, telling her she owed no one forgiveness tonight, that healing comes after safety, not before. He announced publicly that she would leave this place with her dignity restored and her future reclaimed, that the world would soon know her, not as a discarded wife, but as his daughter and heir. Security escorted the shattered family aside. Whispers followed Alina as she walked forward, stronger with each step, not because wealth surrounded her, but because truth finally stood beside her. She felt something awaken inside her, a sense of identity, not borrowed, not earned, but inherent, as she exited the hall with her father. The crowd parted in silence, understanding that they had just witnessed the collapse of false power and the rise of a woman they once ignored. The night outside felt colder, yet cleaner, as snow drifted softly from the sky, wrapping the city in silence. While inside the hall, chaos unfolded quietly. Powerful people whispered, phones rang, assistants rushed, and reputations collapsed in real time. The billionaire led Alina forward through the parted crowd, each step heavier with meaning than the last, yet lighter than any step she had taken in her life Because for the first time she was not walking alone, reporters gathered outside, sensing history unfolding. Flashes lit the air. Questions, shouted accusations formed, but the billionaire raised a hand, shielding Alina from the noise, and said calmly, "Tonight is not for explanations, tonight is for dignity." He guided her into the car, and as the doors closed, Alina finally allowed herself to breathe. The tears returned, but they were different, not born from shame, but from release. Years of silence poured out as quiet sobs, and the man beside her listened without interrupting, without fixing, without judging, just present. Something she had never known. They arrived at a private residence overlooking the city lights, a place she once believed belonged to another universe. Inside, warmth surrounded her, blankets, tea, and gentle voices. She was given space, not commands, choices, not orders, and that alone felt like healing. The next morning, the world woke to headlines that shook social hierarchies. Videos surfaced, statements were released, and the same people who laughed now rushed to deny involvement. Apologies flooded in from names that once ignored her existence, but Alina watched from a distance, realizing how empty words sound when spoken out of fear, not remorse. The billionaire announced publicly that his daughter would not seek revenge, but reform foundations were launched, focused on protecting vulnerable women. Legal support shelters, education, dignity. He gave her authority, not as a symbol, but as trust. And Alina stepped into meetings where she once would have been silenced, now listened to, because truth carries a different weight than wealth. She confronted her past not with anger, but clarity. Meeting the husband one final time in a quiet room, without cameras, without crowds, he could not look her in the eyes, and she did not ask for apologies. She simply said, "You mistook my silence for weakness," and walked away, leaving him smaller than she had ever been. Weeks passed, and Alina transformed, not into someone new, but into who she always was. When fear was removed, she spoke gently, firmly, inspiring others to speak to society, debated morality, power, and cruelty. Some defended the elite, some questioned tradition, but many began to see what they once ignored, and Alina stood before a crowd months later at a Christmas charity event, different from the last. No humiliation, no spectacle, only honesty. She spoke about dignity, not as something given by money or marriage, but as something inherent in being human. She asked the audience to reflect on how easily pain becomes entertainment and how silence feeds cruelty. The room listened, not because she was rich, but because she was real. As snow fell again outside the city, Alina smiled softly, understanding that her story was never about revenge or wealth, but about truth arriving even when delayed, and how one voice, one moment, one refusal to stay silent can expose a cruel society and begin to change it.